Let's build a case study as to why the Lakers don't need a third superstar this summer. A stalwart on the Rams offensive line retires, and USC adds a SoCal receiver to the 2027 recruiting class. Good morning. I'm James. And this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. So it's February 11, 2026. Welcome back to the home office. By the time you see this clip, I'm going to be flying east for work, which sucks. But hey, we're still going to start off the day right, because if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. Now, to be frank, last night was not good for the Angelenos. San Antonio 136, Lakers 108. 4 Lakers starters out. So this score is no surprise whatsoever. As a side note, LeBron James missed his 18th game of the season. As a result, he is no longer eligible for the All-NBA team, snapping a streak of 21 consecutive seasons. I cried uncontrollably. I don't know about you. Also, Houston edged the Clippers 102-95. Benedict Mathurin, who was acquired in the Ivica Zubac trade, he made his debut. He scored 9 points. Meanwhile, today, the Clippers are still in Houston. That game will start at 5, and USC is at Ohio State at 3:30. So with that out of the way, what do you say we get to the news? When LeBron James bluntly said the Lakers are not a championship team after they lost to Oklahoma City on Monday, it is sorely tempting to hate. When sources in the Lakers organization recently told The Athletic that they had contingency plans if they don't land Giannis Antetokounmpo this summer, it sounded really hard to believe. Like if somebody tells you Kid Rock has talent, you find that hard to believe. But what if I told you those Lakers sources were onto something? Now, it's going to take me a moment to build this case, but I want to. Because we understood before this season that the Lakers are in transition. You can call the Lakers being in a cocoon. You can call it roster-affirming care. Totally doesn't matter to me. It's to shift the future away from James and to Luka Doncic. As a result, the Lakers built this temporary, rickety, injury-prone roster. The roster is about as stable as Tobey Maguire's starting relationship with a 20-year-old influencer. Props to Spider-Man, I suppose. Look, you do that, you know there's going to be turbulence this year. Look at the Lakers starting lineup last night. Kobe Buffkin was in the G League just a couple of days ago. He started. Along with James being out, so was Doncic, Austin Reeves, Marcus Smart. So ESPN noted yesterday that it was a year since Doncic made his Lakers debut. This bridge to the future. So, will that bridge get support? Here's what we know. The Lakers have just 3 other players besides Doncic under guaranteed contracts for 2026-27. That would be Dalton Knecht, Jake LaRavia, and reserve forward Jared Vanderbilt. All 3 of whom likely going to be reserves in the Lakers' future. For all we know, Knecht might be in Charlotte. Even Luke Kennard, who was acquired at the trade deadline to give outside shooting, is on an expiring contract. So, if LeBron James leaves during the summer, the Lakers will have $50 million in cap space to use. Even if they keep Austin Reeves, they can go over the limit to keep Austin Reeves. They'd still have that $50 million in space. So that gives you 4 potential starters right there. Smart, Ayton, Reeves, and Doncic. Which means, hey, let's replace James with the Greek Freak. That would surely be plan A. But do you pause and ask yourself, is Ayton really a starter? because we don't have any rim protection. There's no interior defense for the Lakers. Now, the free agent market isn't exactly loaded with strong centers, but there are names that could be thrown out there as potential trades. I want to pause before we start throwing random names up against the wall to see who sticks. What I am trying to say is that if we pause and look at the roster as it's going to be this summer, it's going to look a little bit like the summer of 2019, when the Lakers had only 2 stars, James and Anthony Davis. What did the Lakers do then? They waited. They didn't go big game hunting at that point. Instead of looking for a third superstar, they utilized their cap space to sign 3-and-D wings, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Danny Green. Then they went out and added center JaVale McGee. And then, because the people started noticing that the Lakers were building a complete team instead of just having 3 superstars, other players wanted to tap in. They added Rajon Rondo. They brought back Dwight Howard. And as a result, that was a team that was able to rotate all kinds of defensive stoppers in. It had significantly more defensive options. This team has one defensive option. It's Marcus Smart. So theoretically, not going for the Greek Freak, if they hear the Greek Freak wants to go somewhere else, so be it. The idea is to build around everybody else. Kind of like how the Dodgers utilize other players like Swiss Army knives around their superstars. See, the problem the Lakers faced after 2020, when they won the ring in the bubble, is that LeBron James is not a patient man, so the roster kept flipping like houses on reality TV. If the Lakers do not go big game hunting this summer, be patient. Maybe you flip a 41-year-old LeBron James for multiple 3-and-D players and a center that protects the rim better than DeAndre Ayton. Maybe Ayton still starts, but he would be backed up by somebody significantly better than Jackson Hayes. This could very well mean that after Dodgers owner Mark Walter bought the Lakers, after Walter brought in a bunch of people from the Dodgers front office to look at the way the Lakers run things, this summer, all of a sudden the Lakers start acting like the Dodgers of the NBA. And I'm totally in favor of that. Now, if you're a Lakers fan, feel free to let me know what you think in the comments thread. As expected, right tackle Rob Havenstein announced his retirement after an 11-year career with the Rams. It was time. He did win a Super Bowl. He was a very productive player. He became injury prone over the last few years. He was passed on the depth chart by Warren McClendon. Now, Havenstein was a second-round pick back in 2015, and you bring up the year 2015, and then all of a sudden, all the scribes, everybody in the press, they got all emotional, and they bemoaned the fact that, yes, riding off into the sunset, the last St. Louis Ram. To which I say, great. Now understand, I'm not trying to say I hate Havenstein. What I'm saying is I wish there were never any St. Louis Rams. I mean, let's be real about this. Los Angeles is, in fact, the greatest sports city in the world, but losing the Rams and the Raiders back in 1995 was the darkest era in this city's entire sports history. This city has dominated in every sport except professional women's soccer and arena football. And we were without the NFL because a former burlesque dancer who happened to shack up with the guy who owned the Rams back then, he died, she got the team, she got caught up in her fifis and moved my favorite football team to her hometown in the Midwest. You know, it's kind of funny to me. There were these online jackals who got mad that Puka Nacua took local fans to task because there's not enough support for the Rams at home. Maybe the Rams would have had the support if the NFL didn't allow Georgia Frontiere to slither away with the team in the first place. Maybe if the NFL didn't purposefully keep teams out of LA for 2 decades, an entire generation of fans wouldn't have committed to rooting for outside teams. When you see SoCal's rep the Dodgers and, oddly enough, the 49ers, Georgia Frontiere is the reason why. If you don't have a local football team for a few years, you're going to start looking elsewhere. And by the way, the same thing is currently happening in St. Loser, Missouri as we speak. I spent 9 months, you guys know I worked on the road. I spent 9 months working in St. Loser. They're all Chiefs fans now. So no disrespect to Rob Havenstein, but I shed not a tear over the last St. Louis Ram leaving the game. Also with the Rams, Aubrey Pleasant has a second team interested in him, hiring away from the Rams as a potential defensive coordinator. That would be Arizona, which recently hired Mike LaFleur away from LA as the Cards' new head coach. Pleasant interviewed with Arizona earlier this week. He also had a cup of coffee with Cleveland. 3-star receiver Eli Woodard from Chaparral High in Temecula has committed to USC's recruiting class in 2027. This is according to On3.com. Woodard is the 72nd ranked passer in his class, according to 24/7 Sports. Rankings, whatever. The dude caught 17 touchdown passes last year. Nose for the end zone. Now, he is the second commit in the Trojans class of 2027. Obviously, they're getting their feet under them. They have the top-ranked recruiting class of 2026. So be patient. USC football, on the other hand, they have made a habit of splashy hires or recruiting victories. This is not splashy. Prepare to be underwhelmed. The Trojans promoted defensive analyst Skylar Jones to replace Eric Henderson as defensive line coach. Now, to be fair, Jones spent the last couple of years analyzing the defensive line, so he definitely has a relationship with the players he's about to coach. Like Henderson, Jones also worked for the Rams. So I'm not trying to suggest this is a bad hire. I'm just saying it's not a headline grabber. Not exactly Christmas. Also at USC, different sport, I'm not sure how long Elijah Arenas' collegiate career will be. Perhaps he originally thought he'd be one and done. Perhaps he takes up driving Teslas again. Who knows? But the dude is making up for lost time in a massive way. He was named college basketball's freshman of the week. And you know what? I can't say it's a bad idea. Look, Eric Musselman put together a roster of scorers, and yet with Sunday's game on the line at Penn State, he let a freshman decide the game. Arenas is the son of a former NBA All-Star. He let the kid isolate and take the final drive to the hoop. That's impressive. That is very surprising, and it worked. Now, Arenas also scored 29 points and 24 points in his last 2 games. You know, the Trojans were thought to be this hot mess when Andy Enfield rug pulled the school and went to coach SMU, right? But USC has a better record. And you have to like the idea of Arenas in the Trojans' future. Provided, of course, he's not one and done. Yesterday, we discussed an Atlanta Falcons defensive end who allegedly did not take a breakup text all that well from Sparks forward Rakia Jackson. James Pierce now faces 5 felony counts in the aftermath, and I don't want to go through the deets all over again because only Norm Macdonald could make domestic violence funny. Not me. Pierce's lawyer says the dude is maintaining his innocence. And I wish you luck with that. Not as much luck as I wish Jackson, but sure. Maybe your lawyer has the Midas touch or something. Just move on, bruh. She's not into you. The Chargers will hire Rutgers outside linebackers coach Julian Campenny as an assistant defensive line coach. CBS Sports later reported that the Bolts will hire run game specialist Chandler Henley, who worked with offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel in Miami. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Talk to me about what you see the Lakers doing, third superstar or overall team build. And for that matter, are you kind of glad that there are no more St. Loser Rams? And if you enjoyed the update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We're talking LA sports every single day. Thank you for watching. I'm James, and we'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Cortel Queso production. Take care.